Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Welcome to another edition of Uncover California. I'm so excited about today's guests, I can't tell you. How many people have to die under Biden's border bloodbath? We've seen a mother of 5 killed recently, a 13-year-old killed, and that's only the beginning of the carnage that starts well beneath our border in the Darian Gap to Mexico, and our borders are being flooded. Today, on today's show, we have a guest, Oscar Blue, who's been through the Darian Gap multiple times and has seen everything firsthand. And I want to welcome him to the show. Thanks for coming in, Oscar.
It's an honor to be here in your platform. Say hello to every single one of you, or your followers, and everybody that is watching. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Yeah, well, I'm honored to have you. Oscar, we've been watching what's been going on. I've been following you for quite some time. I think there's very few of you that actually make that journey through the Darian Gap. You must have seen a difference between the Trump administration and the Biden administration. And I think the U.S. government is 100% responsible for what's going on right now. What have you seen? What sort of difference do you see between the two presidents, and what have you seen?
Well, immediately I can talk to you about what has been happening with the Biden administration, and it is a copy-paste of what Barack Obama started, and it's called the Global Compact of Immigration, that it was brought by the United Nations, and this Global Compact basically opens up the borders and the floodgates of every single country. Now, the whole continent, the majority of the continent of America, it is in the Global Compact that the United Nations made to accept refugees and asylees through non-ports of entry. When the Trump administration came in, surprisingly, they won, and they thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win and continue with this project of the Global Compact. But immediately Donald Trump said, this does not align with American policies. I am not going to give away the sovereignty of my country to the world. There's a process and there's a law. So he got out of the Global Compact, and he took away the power from the United Nations to have power over their borders. So immediately that was number one. Number two, still without the Global Compact, Mexico was in it, Central America was in it, and Canada was in it. So the United States was basically on a sandwich, was right there in the middle, and it was flooded by both sides that is being right now. But ultimately, border security was one of the things that Donald Trump was implementing, and still caravans were coming. So until Donald Trump took the decision of, creating policies that a lot of them, a lot of people do not agree with them. But the thing that really struck the most, it was that he implemented the threat of a tariff to Mexico. And he threatened Mexico, if they do not fix their borders or control this massive influx, there will be tax on avocado, beer, and the automobile industry. That completely went into the pockets of the international investors, as we have the biggest manufacturing companies on our side of Mexico, and they thought, my God, this is going to basically affect us. It is Mazda, Ford, Chevrolet, all these monsters that they control the economy of the United States and the world. And basically they started controlling the borders after that, then COVID came and all this nonsense. But Joe Biden came in, and immediately after he won, I predicted this. I said he's going to go back to be a collaborator of the Global Compact on Migration. And as soon as Antonio Guterres, that he is a delegate of the United Nations, started posting on Twitter that he is really happy that the United States will go again on their way to the Compact of Migration. And that has been the number one problem. If you eliminate the Global Compact on Migration, you take away the power of these NGOs that they're, taking advantage and making money out of human misery massively, also out of human trafficking, and ultimately being an incentive to the organized crime to continue to traffic to people through non-ports of entry. So if you take away that and you eradicate that and you eliminate that, that will fix a lot the problem that you see today.
Yeah, we used to have the Third Safe Country Act, which seems to have gone by the wayside. Now, I did see you reporting down in Panama, I think it was a few months ago, where you had discovered that the UN had taken over the base in Panama, and that they were actually having camps out in the Darian Gap area, and they were using our refugee resettlement program to fly people into the country. Can you talk about that?
Well, there's a lot of things that the UN is the number one aider and abater to this mass migration that is occurring in this disaster and this civilization of borders in Central and South America. We discovered that a lot of these NGOs, they're aiding and abating this to continue. And the Darian Gap, it is a humanitarian business, not only for the organized crime that works in Colombia. Now, the Colombian cartel is working all the way to Turkey. They're flying Chinese migrants all the way to the Darian Gap. This has become a humanitarian business. And the NGOs know that without this crisis and without a crisis, there will be no money, there will be no funding, there will be no jobs. So ultimately, they need to be in there. And we found that the NGO that is called HIAS was promoting how to enter people through the Darien jungle. Now, get to know these places that is called Acandí, Turbo, and Capurganá. These are villages that they're on the Colombian side. These villages are controlled by the cartel. So basically, HIAS, it is telling the people to go into the places where the cartel it is controlling and massively making money out of these tourist packages that they offer in South America by the quantities of $320, $340, $360 per person. And they traffic them all the way to the limitations of Panama. We discovered this, and as soon as it started blowing out of proportion, Hayes took away the sign in the village of Bajo Chiquito that is steps out of the Darien Gap, and they closed their Twitter account for some weeks because they were discovered that they were incentivizing this to continue. This is a complete disaster. The United Nations has created a disaster of migration. Instead of, and it is completely the opposite. And it's so ironical. They say in the Global Compact that they need to migrate correctly, documented, peacefully, safely, and with a purpose. It is completely upside down. Migrating to the Darien Gap is the most dangerous place for migrants. I have seen decomposed bodies, assaults, rapes against women, children dying, people getting sick of malaria, dengue, mudslides, people drowning consistently. It is horrible. It is a nightmare. And it is not only that, it's the extortion that the migrants are going through in Central and South America, and ultimately the cartel, lastly, in Mexico. That is the most horrible thing. It is, the United Nations has created this problem. This is why the number one reason it is to completely get out of the Global Compact and go back to what it is, the normal law and order of immigration, ultimately respecting asylum and refugee, all these things. But how much can a country take? This is
Right.
the absolute question.
It's crazy too, because again, I've been following you for a while. All these UN people are pushing climate change as the biggest threat to the world. And yet I'm looking at these villages that are completely being destroyed with trash and sewage, and just, it's disgusting. What have you seen as far as climate, you know,
It's an environmental disaster. It is the
right,
Darien Gap. It is considered the little Amazon of the continent. It was a pristine jungle. It was beautiful. Now the authorities of Panama and some other authorities that they are also studying environmental disasters have said that there's more than 60 tons of trash, not only counting the most important thing, that is the contaminated water. Now the wildlife, the panthers, the jaguars, the monkeys, they cannot go down the stream and drink water. They will get sick. This
right.
because the migrants, they do their necessities. And not only that, the enormous amount of quantities of decomposed bodies that you will find in the stream. On our third journey, Ben Berkwam and myself, Ben got really sick. And one of the things that we were wondering why he got really sick is because we had a filter that it was, a microbacteria filter. You can filter microbacteria, but we did not know we were filtering. We count the time. We don't count it by miles or kilometers. We count it by hours. And we were a few, like 3 hours up, in the Darien, 6 hours just to get out of the Darien. And on that particular amount, on that gap, there was a decomposed body, and we were filtering water up the stream. Later on, Ben was really sick, and we did not realize that there was a decomposed body there. These are the actual contaminations that they are happening in the jungle. The jungle is completely destroyed in some parts. I have seen inside of the jungle, tons and tons of trash. It is just unbelievable. And then you have the pandering of the environmentalists pandering to the climate change when the tribes are being destroyed. The
Right.
tribes, their culture, they are now dedicated to guide migrants through their jungle, to traffic. A lot of them, they have taken the bad way to assault, to rape also women inside of the jungle. This has completely destroyed the culture, and now they live out of the economy of the migrant. What is that? They sell clothes, they sell food. Also, they have, they have Western Union. They will sell internet by, Starlink. They have all this. It's a business now. It is business living out of human misery. And all of this has been created by not only by the Biden administration. It is the complete incentive because migrants do not want to go to Mexico, to Panama, to Colombia, to Nicaragua. They want to go to the United States, plus the incentives that Biden is adding to the fact. So, the factor of the contamination, and this is a question that I have asked: how many migrants that they enter the United States of America? How many they say I'm running away because of climate change? It's complete stupidity. Right. You don't see none even one that it will say I'm running away because of climate change.
We've seen migrants that are innocent in this. They're looking for a better way of life, and I completely understand that. But we also see people coming that are military-aged men from all over the world, and it's very concerning to me. Since you've been through, how many times have you been through the Darian Gap now? Like 4 or 5 times?
I crossed the Darian Gap 4 times, as Ben has been the only American that has done it 4 times, and I'm the only Hispanic Latino that has done it 4 times in the whole world.
Okay, and what is the most? And because I want people to really get the grasp of this, what is the most horrific thing that you have seen, especially with the kids?
Especially with the kids. I'm
sorry to ask, but I think people need to know.
Yeah. It's okay. It brings a lot of tough memories. I can tell you a couple. The second trip that we encountered these criminals that they were assaulting, raping women inside of the jungle, and it was a gunfight. We were recording that between the heroic agents of Panama Center Front against the Clan del Golfo cartel, that they encountered them, and one of them was eradicated and 2 of them were arrested. As we were going to this place, and it was extremely dangerous, there was one confession of one minor that she just got raped, and she just told me that on camera. And for me, you hear it from you have heard it all your life, that women get abused, women get raped here and there when they're in bad neighborhoods and bad places. But that was a clear, declaration of her saying it to me and hugging me and saying, protect me. That was a huge impact for me. That was a huge impact.
Yeah, because you probably wanted to just take her in your arms and protect her.
Oh yeah, what absolutely.
Can you do?
And the second time, the third time that we crossed the Darien, it was raining season, as it is right now. Right now, they have an enormous problem. A lot of people are dying and drowning right now. They're trying to make it before Biden, changes, ends the presidency. But more than that, the third trip, we were carrying a lot of children. We had to leave our jobs as being a journalist, Ben and I, and we were assisting children that they were basically drowning because the parents, it's an irresponsibility. I tell them, you're completely irresponsible to put your child through this. I don't care your necessity, really. The necessity of life is beyond every economical necessity. But we were carrying children. There was a specific child that I carried for more than 6 to 8 hours. He was from Venezuela. He was around 11 years of age. And I carried him the whole trip. And the last river that I was carrying him, I crossed him through the river through his mom. His mom had like this big cuts in the bottom of her feet. She could not even walk. And after 6 hours of carrying him through multiple rivers and streams, he told me, can you be my dad for one day? And that was really an impact for me because I'm a Latino. I cannot believe what we're going through. And this elite, these people are politically using the migration for their political gain and votes, and ultimately for another political issue that is, money, and ultimately also to replace the Republican Party, because this, and at the end of the day, Democrats will have the amount of votes in the later 5 to 10 years from now. And people are dying because of this ideology. And I went to the other side of the corner, I really started crying on the other side of the jungle because I could not believe that this child was asking me for a father. And that's how bad it is. It's really bad. I have seen decomposed bodies. I have seen people drowning. I've seen multiple mudslides. I have seen people without a leg crossing, multiple stories of people hanging themselves because their child was drowned crossing the Darian Gap. It is really bad. It is a nightmare underground. It's a complete nightmare. It is torture. It is pain. It is sickness. It is just hearing late at night when you're in your hammock and you're sleeping, hearing children cry and telling their mom why I need to go home. I want to go to my dad. I want to go to my brother. I want to stay in my bed. And this is pushed by all these progressive, mercenary, activist, Marxist, socialist liberals. It is pushed. They want this to continue. They want this. They're pushing it. They're pushing it. And it is amazing that as soon as the president of Panama comes in and says, I want to close it, the ones that they don't want to close it, it is the UN, it is the international organizations, it is the ones that they're supposed to defend the human right. And it is completely opposing to that because for them, it is a business. It is not something that it needs to be fixed.
See, and I would like to see the UN completely defunded and kicked out of America. That's just, I have disdain for them. Now, I remember watching a video, and it was after the fact, but you were actually attacked by the cartels at one point on your journeys. And they took all your camera equipment. Do you want to tell that story?
Oh, that happened in Guatemala. There was this pandering to say that a lot of migrants are migrating right now through the United States of America because of the environmental disaster. So I went to this, Guatemala. It is the country that has more volcanoes and more volcano activity. So I went to this community that a volcano exploded, and a lot of the migration started happening on this large community. More than 1,200 people died because of this explosion. It erupted, and all these people try to migrate to the United States. So my whole deal was to go over there and study that. And I went through this place, and we did not know that it was that unsafe. That was, a thing that I learned later on, in a bad way, that you need to study first these kind of conditions. And we went in there, we started going in, we were railed in by a woman that it was crying. She was basically fishing us to just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And she said, up that mountain, there's a church that it got, flooded by lava. You will see actually some residue that is really important for you to see as pictures and video. It will be really important if you see it. So we went up there. I was with a camera guy. We went up there, and as soon as I was recording on a live stream, I just hear a click, and it was, the 9mm, and it was a rifle that the other guy was carrying. And immediately I started saying, no, hold on, calm down. They made me kneel down. They hit me a couple of times with their gun in the back of the neck. And I was live. They did not realize that I was live because I had one of those. I had an iPhone, but it had those screensavers that they look kind of that you cannot look from the sides. It is like a black screen, and they could not see that I was live. So I put the phone down, and I can see actually the live stream. And I was waiting for somebody to comment to say they're getting assaulted. So in that moment, if that would happen, I will cut the live stream and be like, okay, they know already. So comments started coming in, and I saw that they were saying, "Oh, they're getting robbed. They're getting assaulted." And I cut the live stream, but after that, it was really nerve-wracking. I really thought that I was going to lose my life. They took away all of our shoes and our equipment, and they made me stand up, and they were pointing the gun several times to my head, and they were saying, "You're going to die today. So talk to Jesus right now." So I started praying to the Lord. The first thing that I was incredibly, sad was that my son is going to be living without a father. So, that was really bad for me at that moment. And thank to the Lord that I survived that day. And, we made it out.
Wow. Praise God. And again, I pray for you actually on pretty irregular basis because I know you're always putting yourself in harm's way, but God's using you. So I hope you keep it up, but I do hope you stay safe. So we've seen the danger there that you personally faced. I think I remember a video as well where you actually, and I think you were with Ben, and you guys had approached got like a camp of military-aged men from all over the world. What what type of people that are not your moms and dads are you seeing come through your country and come to our country that are
Well,
dangerous?
I can tell you if we go by countries that I have seen, inside of the Darian Gap, we have encountered Afghan pilots that they're running away from the Taliban, supposedly, and there were Afghan pilots. And they used to be with the military in the middle of the Darien Gap. These are people from Afghanistan. You will see a lot of people that they were former soldiers from Afghanistan that they're not going to the United States. They're already in the United States.
Right.
We have seen, ultimately, I have seen a lot of Chinese, people, a lot of Chinese migrants that do not know a word in Spanish. They do not know a word in English, and they do not. The only language that they know is Mandarin. And I'm
And
just flabbergasted.
China doesn't just let their people leave.
No, that's where I'm going. Last trip that we did in the Darien, fourth time, we were walking back and we were so exhausted. In the middle of nowhere, Ben and I, we saw a Chinese migrant. And he was crying and he explained to us that he was being persecuted because he's a Christian. Xi Jinping is not, it wants to take the control of the religion in China. It's a thing that nobody wants to talk about in China. So he escaped and his pastor is locked up. He was explaining that to us. But as soon as we got back to his wife had a broken ankle to another migrant camp. We asked him a question. We said, do we see a lot of Chinese arriving to California? And he specifically said, yes, California is the place that I want to go. And I say, why? It's like the word gets out, between Chinese, this is the place. But I said, do you see any Chinese CCP spies basically infiltrating in this massive group of people that they're vulnerable, possibly Chinese people? And he immediately started saying, yes, 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 yes. Everybody in China knows that, but they don't want nobody to know that you have infiltrated Chinese communists, spies infiltrating into your borders. That was really shocking for us. And then he later on started saying, stop using Chinese technology. Do not use Huawei. Do not use applications like TikTok. Do not use anything. They will track you. They will video. They will record you. They have all this intelligence that is extremely, tracking all of your life. That was really shocking for me. Now, in terms to Central America, I have seen, the worst, really good people. South America, I have walked with doctors, lawyers, engineers, Venezuelans. I have walked with doctors, lawyers, engineers, models, really good people. But I have walked also with really bad people. And one of the caravans, I was the first one to whistleblow this in the year 2021. I started saying to the American people in one of the caravans, I have documented and walked 11. And I said to the American people, El Tren de Aragua is coming to your border. El Tren de Aragua, it is one of the most dangerous gangs that operates from the prison in Venezuela that is already violently, delinquently operating right now in the United States. And it's extremely famous right now because of the mode of operandi, what they're doing. And I started saying to the American people, the majority of these men that they're here, they're part of this gang and they're coming into the United States of America, and nobody's going to stop them. And that news got out, and now all of a sudden you have this, something that is normalized. You have these people that they are actually infiltrating in caravans. They infiltrate in, in the vulnerable people. You actually, I was in another caravan, and Venezuelans were complaining that they were escaping from these people, and you had these people walking with them. It's just unbelievable. They were saying, hey, we escaped from this, and we cannot believe that the United States, they're taking this into their country. Even them, they were saying, And I think that one of the most shocking ones was here in Tijuana. We had a Russian pilot that it was one of the shelters. It was really interesting. I tried to interview him, but the leftist organizations, NGOs, immediately intervened for me to not ask him a question. And they overprotected him because they knew that I was going to ask really particular questions that they were going to be uncomfortable, and to find out what the hell a Russian pilot it is doing in Tijuana and trying to enter the United States of America. So I have seen a lot of priority of people, military age males, yes. a lot of military age males from Africa, trained military age males from Congo, from Senegal, from Burkina Faso, from Nigeria, from it's all the majority of Africa. Also, I have seen military age males from Haiti. A lot of them, they know how to train, they know how to direct themselves. Even when you're walking in the jungle, they will have specific, military training signs of how to direct themselves. And they already know how, because we walk with the center front officials that they're military, and they know what they're talking when the military of Panama is saying, go here, go there, and they will actually follow those instructions. They already train. A lot of military age males from Venezuela. We have seen people that they are former military, that they're running away from the regime. These people are between the ages of 18 and 35, and they're well prepared and they know how to use a gun. A lot of them, we have seen a lot of them. Yes.
Our time's just gone so fast. I hope I can have you back again sometime.
Sorry that I extended.
Oh, it's not your fault. But the one thing that I want to say is, this 13-year-old girl who was just raped in New York City, the guy that they captured, and it was kind of one of those headlines that was hidden. The police chief in New York said that there was a 3-year-old child with this man when he crossed the border, and that he was asked, "Where's the child?" They don't know. That's one of my main concerns. Not only I think we're going to get hit in the United States, and I think we all see it coming. But Oscar, please let people know where to find you. And I'm going to tell you, audience, you need to follow every step this man makes if you want the truth.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show. They can follow me on Twitter at X. Oscar El Blue. Every platform is Oscar El Blue or Oscar El Blue Ramirez. Also, with Real America's Voice News, that is where I work. And I'm a collaborator also at Epoch Times, and I work for several different media, Spanish media. So thank you so much for inviting me. And just, I'm sorry if I extended a little bit. There's so much to say.
I could talk to you for like 2 hours. So I hope that you'll consider coming back on. I just want everybody to know the truth. And I thank you for what you do. I pray that you stay safe. We need people like you. And unless we have a vast turnaround very quickly, I don't know where this goes. So I thank you. You're a hero.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I appreciate your words. Thank you so much. I take it with all kind and heart. Thank you.
All right. So everybody stay tuned. Our next guest is Thomas Murphy, and he's running against Lindsay Graham. Raise a glass to patriotism with Republican Red Wine, our new sponsor. The perfect choice for patriotic Americans who want to make a statement with every sip. Let your love of country shine through with each delicious pour of this bold, flavorful wine. Enjoy our one-of-a-kind limited edition labels that are sure to become a conversation piece. Join us in celebrating America and all that makes it great with Republican Red. Use promo code CALLI for up to 15% off.
Welcome to the MAGA Mall. We have the largest selection of the finest quality MAGA caps and Trump caps that are made. We have over 250 hats and 1,000 different products in 28 product categories. All the caps are made from premium cotton twill. Everything on them is embroidered. As a matter of fact, in the last election cycle, we donated over 45,000 caps to Trump-endorsed candidates and conservative causes all the way across America. And you can buy any of our products by going to our website. It's at themagamall.com, like on the sign over here, and use promo code CALI, and that's for Uncover California. That will get you a 10% discount off of all of our products and also help this worthy cause. And remember, it's always a MAGA day at the MAGA Mall.
Welcome back. Today, I'm super excited. Our next guest, I actually met him when I was seeing the Flynn movie when General Flynn was doing the Flynn tour. And he's a veteran. He's a hero. He even gave up a limb for you, the American people. He served this country with dignity, And now he's taking on one of the biggest swamp creatures in DC, Lindsay Graham. Thomas Murphy, welcome to Uncover California.
Thank you, Lori. I really, really appreciate you having me. Thank you very much. This is
So,
awesome.
yeah, so we met back at the Flynn movie, and you were kind of touring around with General Flynn and Ivan Raiklin and that little cast of Chad. What a bunch of great guys, all veterans. And you guys are all standing strong for this country. And now suddenly you've thrown your hat in to run against the swampy Lindsey Graham. What made you decide to do this?
I just for a couple years being, post COVID, I graduated school right before COVID happened. And through COVID, I really started paying attention to what was going on in our politics. And I really became disheartened by what was going on here in South Carolina with the direction that Lindsey Graham was taking us. And I got to the point where I said, nobody else in my state is standing up and saying, hey, we need to do something. We've censored the guy many times, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything. And we've heard rumbles of people wanting to run in the state already, but yet nobody is actively stepping up. So after a lot of discussion with a lot of great friends of mine, I've had a couple of discussions with a couple congressional representatives, and I decided, okay, I need to do something. I need to continue on my service to this nation. I've retired after the 21 years of service, completing school, just kind of really unknowingly setting myself up to the point of, okay, this is the next direction I'm going to go in. I don't approve of what the voting record of Lindsey Graham has been. It's been abysmal, abysmal voting record. I don't stand with the direction that we are heading in with Ukraine. There's a lot of different little nuances to Lindsey Graham here in South Carolina, and I just said enough is enough. I need to do something, and if my direction of doing something curtails that, maybe even somebody better gets in this race to regain this seat from Lindsey Graham, so be it. At least I would have done something. So that's what my starting off point was about 9 or 10 months ago.
Well, you as someone who served this country, how many tours did you do, Thomas?
A total of 13.
Wow.
As far as, joint task force missions and, full 9-month deployments, a total of overall since 9/11, about 13 different deployments.
Well, thank you for your service.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Lindsey Graham's a war hawk. We all know that. We know he's been over in Ukraine before Trump, after Trump. I think they have a huge money laundering scheme going on over there. I think that's why they're not saying ceasefire in Ukraine, because they're all making too much money in it. What are the biggest things that you think that Lindsey Graham has done to damage America, and what would you do differently?
I think on a national stage, I think my really biggest glaring mistake that I think he made within the last year has been, really after the attacks in Israel. He stood in front of a global audience and told, one of a journalist that they needed to be quiet. And I believe it was a journalist, a Jewish journalist of all people. And that really frustrated me. So, that's one of, I think, a beginning set of dominoes. We've seen that he has essentially made the statement that, the use of nuclear weapons in Gaza, really? to turn to desolate that entire region of just, I mean, the atrocities alone that would cause, to the people that lived in that region, to just the entire everything, nature, everything about that area would just be impacted by the use of a nuclear weapon. And that frustrates, I think, a lot of people, you know, to the point of, is Lindsay, where is his moral direction? Who is actually talking to Lindsay and steering his direction? I know here in South Carolina, it's not us, it's not the statesman. I know because he's been censored so many times.
Right.
So many people have tried to push back against what's going on with him. So,
Well,
that's, I guess,
there
yes, ma'am.
seems to be this globalist push right now. And I think that a lot that I would say the uniparty is, I feel like they're all bought and paid for. Your friend Ivan Raiklan keeps talking about his retribution list. I'm praying this is true because I'm so sick of the lawfare. I'm so sick of the attacks on the American people, on President Trump. And somehow, some way, we need truth and transparency in this country again, or we're not going to have a country. Can you tell me anything about this? Can we expect some vindication, some accountability, that these treasonous people will actually pay for their crimes?
Well, I with Mr. Ranklin, we look at who he is, who his past is. Number one, he's a Green Beret officer. He's a lawyer. Um, he and General Flynn are very, very knowledgeable of, as I think, I, profoundly quoting General Flynn, he knows where the bodies are buried,
Right.
so he knows what secrets are being curtailed from the nation as a whole. So I'm hopeful. I'm very, very hopeful that, after President Trump is reelected, that we get some individuals that actually have a backbone into positions to start to hold these people accountable, And yeah, I don't put it past Ivan in knowing what he knows, that he doesn't already have this retribution list already developed. They know what direction they're going to go in. And I hope it happens. I really
Me
do.
too. Me too. Now, so with that, we're watching lawfare. Part of me is a little bit concerned because I wonder if there's going to be a black swan event. And that, when we were with General Flynn in Santa Barbara, I had asked him, I said, well, what do you think is going to happen with the next election? And he blatantly looked me in the eye and he said, if there is one. And I said, are you serious? And he said, absolutely. You're in the military or retired, but we're seeing now Russian ships in the Florida Keys. As a man that we're watching military age men flood the country, as a man who has served, what dangers do you see our country facing right now?
Oh, well, I think it's a glaring, obvious scenario. We've got nuclear capabilities sitting off our shores. We've got, a submarine that can launch nuclear weapons. It's here on our shores. We know that who is flooding this country from our southern borders. I've spent, close to a year looking at who is coming into this nation, and within a couple of months, I said, "Hey, wait a second, we've got a problem. These people that we have coming across our border are not, these are not people who are well intentioned." And I recognize, who some of these people were, not per se the individual, but, you know, what countries they were coming from: Syria, India, Pakistan, just China now,
Afghanistan, China.
Afghanistan. So,
Yeah, and they've already
my
tried to breach our bases.
exactly. My biggest, the Black Swan event that I'm biggest I'm concerned about the most is a nuclear detonation of some type, bigger than a 9/11 type event. And I think it's something that a lot of us have been worried about for quite some time now.
Well, I've just never seen it where we actually, since the Cold War, we haven't had Russian ships off our coast. I know China doesn't just let people leave China. It's amazing how many military age men are entering our country right now. As someone that has served in the military, have you ever seen anything like this?
Um, Not here in our country. I think we've seen on a global stage in Afghanistan and in Russia some of these incursions there. A lot of these factions of uh, uh, Taliban and Al Qaeda type that have infiltrated other countries in an attempt to overtake the governments. We've seen it before in Iraq. We've seen it now in Afghanistan. We're seeing it. You know, this is a very real thing. This is part of what the international terrorism is all about. And you're right. I'm afraid that something like that is building here in the United States.
Yeah.
Similarly.
Well, our previous guest was Oscar Blue, who has spent a lot of time in the Darian Gap. And he was talking about these NGOs and the UN that's basically orchestrating the invasion of our country. As you know, a 13-year-old girl's assailant was arrested today in New York, and supposedly this guy came through our border with a 3-year-old. No one knows where the 3-year-old. We've got a mother of 5 dead. How many Americans have to die under Biden's border bloodbath?
We shouldn't be having any of these happen, number one, at all. I mean, and this type of stuff needs to come to an end. It really does, um, for this number that we're starting to see nationally. And I'm concerned about it here in South Carolina because it's happened here in South Carolina, my own
Right.
state,
Yeah, every
you
state's a
know?
border state now. Every state.
Exactly.
Okay, so
Exactly.
when you're elected to the U.S. Senate, what are you going to be doing for the people of South Carolina and the people of America?
Well, I think we need to kind of shift our focus to a more pro-American type stance, not a separatist type stance, but a more of an American-based stance of we're going to start taking care of American and America's interests, you know, um, not bowing down to the globalist elites, not bowing down to the military industrial complex, actually being accountable back to my state of South Carolina. I'm one of those people that I believe that the 17th Amendment should be rescinded. I do realize that with me saying making that kind of a statement, people will say, well, you couldn't run if they rescinded the 17th. I understand that. However,
Well, why don't you
we
explain
need,
that to people?
okay, so the 17th Amendment is essentially, if we rescinded it, it would give the control back to the state of South Carolina to, in the instances such as what has been happening with, Senator Graham, that the state can essentially take him back in, to recall him, um, do more than just a censor, hold him accountable, and replace him. You
Right.
know, it gives that control back to the state itself, which is, I believe, where it needs to fall on. Because if our citizens in South Carolina hold our state representatives accountable, and our state representatives hold our congressional reps and our senators accountable, then you've got control all the way down to from the top all the way down. And I think that that's where we need to go back to.
Yeah,
in a
we
very
need
simple
local
term.
control. You know what? You know, I live in California, which is commie California. You don't need to be living like California and South Carolina. Trust me, it's a nightmare. So it's interesting, though, because I think one of the problems that we're having right now as well is this fourth branch invisible government that is totally unconstitutional. And these bureaucrats seem to have more power than the elected officials. And I think that Lindsay, you know, he's so funny. He's like, J6 was an insurrection. Oh, but I loved Donald Trump. It's the man has so many faces, you don't know what you're getting. I don't support him just because I've seen pictures of him and John McCain together in Afghanistan with Osama bin Laden. I think he's controlled. Who's controlling him? I don't know, but I don't think he has the interests of the people at heart. I think he has his own interests at heart. Thoughts?
Yeah, I would not have. I couldn't disagree with what you just said. Um, the picture of Bin Laden, I haven't seen that one, so I couldn't speak of that issue.
Oh, they've probably
But
wiped it. It was years ago when Ron Paul was running for office. I saw it and I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, they had pictures of him before he, you know, when they actually kind of helped him out to fight against Russia. And there was a picture of him and John McCain and Lindsey Graham. I'll never
yeah,
forget that picture.
I
You know?
I can only imagine seeing something like that. Just the rage it would put into somebody.
Yeah.
You know, just I've worked around a lot of these guys from 9/11. You know, I've worked with um, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I've worked with a lot of these guys that we've had in custody that are, you know, our our nation is holds as the highest um, ranked terrorists that we currently own. I've worked with these guys. I understand where, you know, what they think, what their tactics have been. We've had time to understand these now for, you know, for well over a decade. So I can only imagine that the frustration and the anger that seeing a photo like that would just well up into somebody.
Yeah, well, you know, and at the same time, here we sit and our children in colleges are being indoctrinated, and we're watching them actually protest for Hamas. You know, Queers for Palestine just blows my mind. They would be stoned, they'd be thrown off buildings. Palestine's not going to accept you, LGBTQ alphabet mafia. They're just not. And I
Right.
see a lot more diversity and unity on the Republican, conservative, constitutionalist side. But there's this middle uniparty that Lindsay's a part of. And the lawfare that's going on in our country is extremely concerning. I heard today that the Superior New York Court does not want to hear President Trump's appeal. I'm hoping that that can go to the actual Supreme Court. The lawfare's out of control. This unelected bureaucracy's out of control. Thomas, do you see a way that we can get out of this mess?
Uh, I think we one of the biggest things that I can possibly think of as somebody who wants to be, you know, a U.S. senator is we need to have people who can get some judges who are more of a conservative based judge system. You know, we see that just it was just a couple months ago. Lindsay failed to downvote, you know, a judge that was very left sided, and that to me was frustrated because
Yeah,
of the fact that here we have a conservative supposed who is supposed to be weighing in on and determining these judges that are appointed, and for to see Lindsay not vote her down was just another frustrating point because we need to have somebody with a backbone who is sitting in office who can say, okay, these are the judges that we want to put in place, and these are what we're standing on as a conservative base. These are the judges that we're going to back. If you fail to meet these qualifications, we are not going to vote on you.
Yeah.
And I
Well, and
think,
go on.
I
Sorry to
think,
interrupt.
coming, no, no, I think coming here, in the next couple of years, regaining the Congress and the Senate, I think we're going to have the ability to bring in these type of judges.
Well, and I don't want a political judge. I want a judge with a blindfold on, not looking at politics. In the Los Angeles area, I'm right outside of Los Angeles. We have the Soros funded DA, George Gascon. Los Angeles has become a third world country. The crime is out of control. The homeless crisis is out of control. And he doesn't prosecute crime. And we're starting to see judges pick winners and losers. And we're starting to see things that Stalin would have been proud of. They have targeted the man looking for a crime instead of a crime happening and them saying, who did this crime? We live in a very, very dangerous space. Few times I've had defendants from January 6th on, one a very dear friend of mine, Siaka Masakwa. And I'm telling you, these people are being persecuted when we've watched the left burn down a city. The fact that this guy that just killed the mother was let go already once and released. We're seeing this happen over and over again from these Marxist communist judges. This is not the way America's supposed to work. I don't know, Thomas. I sometimes get a little bit frustrated, but it's frightening. It truly is. I just want things normal again. What is your hope for this country?
I think I share a lot of same sentiments that a lot of people across this country share. To bring some normalcy back to this country. We're never going to go back to what it was prior to, Biden taking office. It's just the inflation is just killing us right now with the national debt. It's going to take how long? Generations to pay this type of a debt off. My grandkids are going to be paying on this debt. We're never going back to what it was prior to a Biden administration. There's just no way. But I hope that, we elect President Trump. He regains the control, the dignity of this country, the strength, a projection of strength throughout the world, and just really start pulling back on this Marxist agenda that is just crippling our country. Just people are really feeling it. They really are, and I think it's waking up a lot of people. I hope it does. We see all sorts of different ethnic groups in this nation that are saying, wait a second. I'm not okay with what's going on right now. We had it better during the Trump years, that's, I hope, what we do as a nation is stand up, get back to the ballot, vote again, get President Trump back in office, and really put some solid people in place to regain the direction that we were on. One of my things, and it's a Navy thing, I guess, and it's something that I kind of attached to my campaign. We need a course correction in this country. Our ship has been led astray. We're drifting in dangerous waters, and we need a course correction. So
I couldn't agree more. And what's concerning too, we need to drill oil. We need our energy and independence back, which I think is holding a lot of us hostage. The fact that the Saudis don't want to trade in the petrodollar anymore, and we have BRICS going on with North Korea, Russia, China, now Saudi Arabia. I don't think the American people realize the damage this is going to do to the U.S. dollar. And if President Trump does not get back in office, I don't see our country surviving. I just don't.
I would have to agree with you. I mean, eh, I know a lot of people are definitely fearing that direction. I
Yeah.
think hopefully that fear is what's going to drive people to vote and understand that we
Yeah.
need to
Well,
put
and
the
then,
brakes on this.
yeah, we have an information warfare. Google's once again throttling everything. I can tell you that I've done Google searches where I can actually put a story in. For instance, the other day I was trying to find Sidney Powell's story where she was exonerated in Texas. Put it into the search bar, and all that comes out up is she pled guilty. She pled guilty. Same thing with General Flynn. You know, we've got a really huge problem with, they say that we give misinformation. They own misinformation. You know, this propaganda, this Operation Mockingbird, what I would call a color revolution on our own country. It needs to end. We need patriots like you in office. So you're going to be going against this huge corporate money machine. Where can people donate to your campaign, Thomas?
Well, I've started my social media on the X platform. I have the link for my donor box location there. I have a website that's actually coming online here within the next couple weeks.
Okay.
I believe the address is going to be www.thomasdmurphy4senate.com, and I'll have all
Okay.
my links there, my donation links, my entire platform that I'm standing on. So either there or I'm also on Facebook as well.
Okay, and give everybody your addresses to your X account. And I know it's super hard when you have to say your own. I always mess it up. But your X account and where people can follow you and communicate with you on social media.
Sure, my X account is at TOMMURPHY8485. Tom Murphy 8485 here on the X platform. And just Thomas D. Murphy on on Facebook as well. I do have a couple other social media websites. I do have a Snapchat. I do have an Instagram account as well, and both of those are under Thomas D. Murphy.
Yeah, I have a problem with Facebook and Instagram. I just think they censor way too much. So I spend my time on X. That's where I always run into you. But Thomas, it's such a pleasure to know you. You are a patriot. You are a wonderful man. I am honored to call you my friend. And I'm going to be rooting for you. And when we get closer to the election, I'd love to have you come back on.
At any time, Lori. And I can't tell you how, since you and I met in California at the General Flynn event, just the back and forth that we've had, the discussions that we've had that most people don't realize. Lori, thank you very much. You become a dear friend to me. I'm honored to know you. I'm honored to call you a friend, and I can't wait for the future. Thank you for everything that you do, by the way, in California. I love
Oh,
who you are.
well, thank you so much. All right, everybody, say goodbye to Thomas. Everybody,
Bye.
next week on our show, we are going to have Nick Searcy and Chris Dugard come in. They have produced a movie called The War on Truth, and we're going to go through that film. It's about January 6th, FBI infiltration, Antifa infiltration, and we're going to expose it all. We don't care. We're honey badgers. We don't give a. Have a great day.